Yo, what's up? Welcome inside the opening line, white T-shirt edition. Corey and Benny on a Monday. What's up? What's up, Benny? How was the weekend?
Oh, man, it was a crazy weekend. And that's why it's the white T-shirt, because you and I both just woke up and, we kind of rolled out of bed. It's not the biggest day in terms of sport. As a matter of fact, it's one of the worst days in terms of sports in a really long time. I mean, there's no NBA game tonight, but we'll talk about the one from last night in a little bit. There's only 4 baseball games, overall today. So I don't know. The FanDuel Sportsbook right now is down. They're doing outage and some kind of maintenance and all that stuff. So I guess they picked a good day to do it because there really isn't a ton of stuff going on.
Not a lot of action to get into today. We do got some baseball, like you said. If you need some entertainment tonight, at least the games are a night game. It's 1:45 p.m. Eastern time start. The NBA, the NHL. Is the Stanley Cup back on tonight?
I don't know, to be honest. I didn't look. And
yes, the Blues and the Celtics, the Blues and the Bruins do play tonight. Benny, how was the trip down to AC this weekend?
Oh, it was good, man. It was good. We, a couple of my boys, we went down. So we ended up eating at Carmine's over at the Trop. And then we went to the MMA fights because the MMA fights were right there in the Trop. I didn't even know they had like a little arena inside the Trop, I want to say like a small arena, but it definitely wouldn't be big enough to host a UFC fight. Like when they do the UFC fights, I think they do them on the Boardwalk Convention Center, like the big one they have down there. This was like a little one inside this is like a little one that was inside the Tropicana Hotel. But it was cool because the Trop is one of the few places down there that has a sports book. Like we were staying at Caesars. Caesars doesn't have a sports book, which is shocking to me. Yeah, absolutely positive. Because I asked when we got there, and they were sending me to the other, all the people were sending me to other casinos. Wow. I was like, you really don't have a sports book down here yet? That didn't make any sense to me. But it was cool. We went to the MMA fights. Wound up at the Lila's Den. For anybody who's been in Atlantic City, you know exactly what I'm talking about with that. Went back. It's like a block or two off the boardwalk.
How was the entertainers?
Wasn't great. Not gonna lie to you. We went after the fights. We stayed for maybe about an hour or so. There was it's like a $15 cover and you get 2 free drinks. I think we all drank our 2 free drinks.
And rolled out.
Dropped a couple singles and stuff. A couple guys got a dance or two, and then we left. Yeah, but it wasn't. They didn't put it this way. They did not have the A team working on Friday night. If they did, then the place isn't going to be open very long.
And Benny said they didn't have. They had the JV out there that night. It was amateur night at Delilah's out there in Atlantic City. But obviously, I went down Washington D.C. Saw my son off to the prom. That was a good time. They did a good job. You know what I'm saying? Everything got done. Obviously, it was all the way up to the end. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm not going to this thing. You're getting on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? But then again, it all comes through, and that all came through. And that worked out pretty well. But on the way down Saturday, as a matter of fact, I think as soon as we get into Baltimore, the UEFA Championship tips off. I decided to just let it ride. No hedge, no nothing. To me, it was like it's not worth it. It's a $20 ticket. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The ticket is no more. You know what I mean? But Benny, 45 seconds into it, I'm like, really, guys?
Yeah.
45 seconds into it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember our first conversation when you showed me the ticket, I don't know, about 2-3 weeks ago when you hit all the other parts of the parlay. And the first thing I said to you was, well, you should probably hedge that. And you were like, well, I was thinking about letting it ride. I was like, yo, but Liverpool's going to win. I mean, Liverpool was the better team. So, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, that's a tough one when you got something like that all the way through to the end and you're down to that last one. It's always the last one on the parlay, right? Like you have like a 5-team parlay. You always go 4 for 4, and then you're sitting on that last one, and it never, no, I'm not going to say never works out, but it feels like that's always the one that catches you,
And during the NBA season, that team is normally the Golden State Warriors for me, and they have let me down a couple times. They did not let me down last night, though. Was able to catch a parlay yesterday with Connecticut and the WNBA and the Golden State Warriors last night. If you were on the total, if you were on the over, that one stung right there. You lose by half a point. But Benny Dubs come out with a classic Golden State Warrior third quarter and more or less run the Raptors out their building.
All right, so let me tell you about my gambling day yesterday, Corey, because I screwed myself yesterday, but you know what? When we win, we talk about it. When we lose, we got to talk about it too. So
oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Big, I wanted to text you like, yo, chill, son.
no. Listen, I watched that entire game. The Toronto Raptors have outplayed the Warriors in this series, basically 6 of the 8 quarters, right?
Yep.
So the first 2 quarters of that game, Toronto looked awesome. Golden State looked horrible. Iguodala was banged up at that point. Steph Curry got like 103 fever. He's, taking juices and stuff in between the game. And I was like, yo, this game is a wrap. I was like, if the Warriors make a run here, I'm going to start banging this, right? And now, I was actually on the Warriors pregame. Like, my pregame bet was on the Warriors. And by the second quarter, I was like, man, I'm looking for a chance to hedge out of this, right? So I got on the Warriors at plus 120 before the game started. Put 200 on it, which is like my standard normal bet when I'm making a bet, right? So in game, I said, yo, if I can get this at minus 200, I'm going to start hitting the Raptors on the other side to kind of, cut my losses, because at that point I was like, the Golden State Warriors have no chance of winning this game. They looked like they were horrible on offense. They were horrible on defense. They were playing like absolute crap. So I started in-game betting Toronto. I ended up banging Toronto 5 times for $100 at various, from minus 200 all the way up to plus 300 when at various points along the way. So I now had 200 to win 240 on the Warriors, and then like 500 to win like 6 something on Toronto. So I'm like doing the math in my head and all this stuff. I'm like, all right, basically if the Warriors win, I'm going to lose like $260 here. If Toronto wins, though, I'm going to cover the 200 I put on the Warriors. I'm going to walk away up like 400 or 500. And honestly, that was one of the worst collapses I have ever seen. The only quarter of that entire game that Golden State won was the third quarter.
Yeah, but the third quarter where they go on it was 18-0 to 20-0. It reminded me of when UNLV went on that run against Duke. The year they beat Duke in the championship, and they went on in the second half they went on like a 30-0 run. They was dunking and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's high flying, but it was a classic Golden State Warrior third quarter, and DeMarcus Cousins came through with a big game last night for the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about in this game. I mean, you had injuries to Kevon Looney and then Klay Thompson later on in the game here today. Andre Iguodala was banged up and fought through and played through it. Boogie Cousins still – I mean, listen, and don't get me wrong, I love Boogie Cousins, and when he's healthy, he's an absolute superstar. He's still not healthy, which just kind of proves how good he was, because he put up a big game yesterday. And honestly, if you watched the beginning of that game, like it really looked like he couldn't move. Like he was definitely not moving like the DeMarcus Cousins we're used to, the big athletic, talented, skillful basketball player. He honestly looked like he was a Marc Gasol. But again, he went out there and outplayed Marc Gasol. He gave the Warriors a presence in the middle, which really helped them in that third quarter when they made that run. When they made that run in the third quarter, it was a combination. I don't want to give them 100% credit because they were playing better defense. They had Draymond and Iggy back there helping out DeMarcus Cousins with, kind of rim protecting that was stopping the drives to the basket, and they were doing a better job of rebounding down there underneath. But it also had a lot to do with Toronto just going ice cold. Like Toronto was like 12 of 36 or something like that from 3-point range yesterday. And like you said, they went on an 18-0 run. Toronto had multiple stretches in the second half of like 3 or 4 minutes where they didn't get a basket. I mean, the whole start of that third quarter was won, but even to end the game, they didn't have a basket until Danny Green hit a 3 with like 30-something seconds left. They went 3 minutes without scoring a basket the last 4 minutes of the game until he hit that 3 with like 30-something seconds left that made it. And it's still Corey, with 30-something seconds left, it was a 2-point game again.
Did you hit it again?
At that point, I was like, listen, I blew my load already. I put as much as I was willing to put on. As I was praying that some crazy stuff happened, that they wound up pulling out the victory. But, at that point, I mean, I basically put all 5 of those bets that I put in were from halftime until the 6-minute mark of the third quarter. And at that point, I was like, I am not chasing this thing anymore. I was like, I had a strong opinion. I threw it out there. I was dead wrong, and I'm willing to accept that. I'm not always right, and I'm not always going to be right. But when I see something that I like, I'm going to have the balls to bet it, whether I'm right or not. I had big balls last night, but now I have a small wallet because
that happens. So the Warriors' effort defensively in the second half of that game was truly amazing. You know what I mean? Even with these injuries and how people are going down, they figured out a way to pull it out, Benny. Now I'm getting ready to take this series on the road, and I'm looking at, is Van Fleet going to be there in Oakland? Is Norman Powell going to be hitting those threes in Oakland? You know what I mean? Is Pascal Siakam going to put up a 30-burger in Oakland?
He disappeared the second half of that game, too.
Was that disappearance or was that Draymond Green defense?
I mean, it was a little bit of both. Well, Draymond they actually had on Kawhi in the second half. Basically, I think what they were trying to do is take away anything on the inside, right? Like they were basically like, if you guys are going to beat us, you're going to beat us from three-point land. And Toronto fell in love with shooting jump shots, And the thing is, when you're hitting them, that's great. There's an old saying that coaches always have, like, you live by the three, you die by the three. A team that is hitting all their threes can beat anybody. A team that's not making any of their threes can lose to anybody. So that's the thing you have to factor in when you're living like that. And we've seen that with the Warriors, right? I mean, the Warriors weren't hitting anything in the first half. They came out in that third quarter just in fuego. They were on fire. So when the defense was getting stops on the one end and guys were hitting shots, I mean, you had like 3 or 4 threes in the second half from Quinn Cook. You had Andre Iguodala knocking down threes. Obviously Clay and Steph are going to do what they did. But even some of the threes that Steph hit, I mean, he had one. And again, it's Steph Curry. So, like, people are just like, oh, well, Steph Curry, whatever. He hit a fadeaway 25-footer with 2 guys in his face, like literally falling backwards. And it was like a rainbow because he had to get it over the outstretched arm. It was just like, it was one of those, they do the numbers fire, does like your win probability and stuff for football, or the chances of this pass being caught or something like that. I would love to see what the chances of that shot going in, because I don't think there are more than 5 people on the planet right now that could have made that shot. And even Steph being probably the number 1 shooter of all of them, that still wasn't more than like a 15 or 20% chance you're going to hit a fadeaway over 2 guys from 25 feet away that you had to throw way up in the air to come down. I mean,
that play even going the wrong direction. I remember that play. At the end of the third quarter, he almost hit like an 80-footer at the end of the third quarter. Like, he launched it 3/4 court, and that thing, and it rimmed out, and it didn't rim out, but it bounced off the rim, didn't he?
The dude's amazing. I mean, I don't know if you saw after the game when they interviewed Andre Iguodala, and they were talking to him about playing through injury, and he was basically like, I'm playing through injury because I'm trying to protect Steph's legacy. Yeah. Like, I want, you know what I mean? And that was pretty cool. Like, that's something that's pretty big if that's the way that your teammates see you there. That's something that, as a former coach, when you have a guy on your team that the other guys are like, yo, I got to step up my game because I don't want to let him down, or I don't want people to be saying that, he's not as good as he is, because people don't realize how good this guy is. That tells you a lot about not only Draymond, but Steph too. No doubt about it.
So Golden State Warriors go up, go to Toronto. They get that game 1-1, get back at it on Wednesday night. The NCAA, the NBA returns with that action right there. Telling you, you caught a couple more WNBA unders over the weekend. They haven't really adjusted those numbers yet at all. Interesting to see how those ones play out. So, but overall, I can't really, this is still. I still see this being a deep series. It's going to be tough for Toronto to go into the Oracle and win, but this is why they got Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard is certainly good enough to go on the road and get a W. Then.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to break this game down coming up right here because we have so many question marks, right? Like, Clay, Kevon Looney going down with the injuries, Andre Iguodala being banged up. My guess is that Iguodala is probably going to play. I mean, he played through it the last game, so I see no reason why he won't play through it this game, although there is probably a heightened injury risk, with him out there. So if you're playing in DFS, if you're playing like these showdown slates and stuff, that's a really risky play to put him on a team right now. Klay Thompson is the injury that I think would be the most important. Again, I haven't read anything. I saw some of the locker room and the interview and stuff like that after the game, and he was basically like, I'll be back. This isn't like a huge deal. It's not something that's going to keep me out of an NBA Finals. So you assume he's going to be back and he's going to be fine. Cousins played a lot of minutes down the stretch there, so I think he'll be good to go going forward. But again, you always got to worry about him re-injuring himself. the KD thing is obviously the big thing. Like, is KD going to come back? He's supposed to play in game 3. Is KD going to be KD, or is he going to be a lesser version of himself? And honestly, even a lesser version of him, like an 80-85% KD, probably still better than the other guys that you're throwing out there instead of him. The Alfonso McKinneys, the Quinn Cooks, what's the tall white guy?
Jonas Jerebko.
Yeah, the Jerebkos, like the guys that were playing minutes last night. Jerebko was actually out there on the floor. They tried to go with the Hamptons 5 lineup of death, the small ball team yesterday, and they put Jerebko in there as the center in order to do it. I mean, even Andrew Bogut last night, right? Like, Bogut even played. Yeah, he played good minutes for them last night. So, the Warriors right now seem to be doing all the things they need to be doing. As long as all these guys can stay healthy, or at least most of them, because they've proven they don't need them all. But, as long as they still have 4 of their 5 All-Stars on the floor, they should be pretty good.
You know what I found interesting? It was great tweet, and it was very spot on. Actually, your opinion about it. Resting your players, your star players, throughout the course of the regular season, load management.
Right.
What it does is your bench players, they're playing meaningful minutes now.
Yep.
So when they get into a game deep in the season, it's not like they're like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not a deer in headlights because they've played meaningful minutes during the regular season as fill-ins for their teammates.
Not even just meaningful minutes, but they're also playing minutes with the core group that's normally out there when everybody's there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had Alfonso McKinney playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and DeMarcus Cousins and Draymond Green. That's something that he did in games when KD was out during the year and he had to fill in for him. Now, again, the guy's still better off with the second unit and being there, but how many times do we see when a guy's out, instead of the coach taking the guy off the second unit and putting him in as a starter in the NBA, they'll just grab some like 11th or 12th man and let that guy be the starter for the first 4 or 5 minutes because they want to keep the chemistry together. Having chemistry is a big thing, knowing what a guy's going to do before he does it and being able to react to that at the same time that he's reacting with that. That's why teams that have played together for a while are usually some of the teams that are making some of the deeper runs here and into the tournament. Toronto does have some new pieces that they added in, but I mean, for the most part, that's the same core team that's been going, into the playoffs the last couple of years and kind of going through those battles. And then obviously the Warriors are a team that's been together a while too. So I 100% agree with that. Not only do you give those guys a chance to play meaningful minutes, but you're giving them a chance to play meaningful minutes alongside the guys that they're going to play those meaningful minutes in the playoffs with. And, that makes it stronger. Plus, I mean, look what the Warriors were able to do here. You were able to basically rest DeMarcus Cousins for a week so that DeMarcus Cousins is ready to play these 6 games where you really need him. You rested KD in that last round for a couple games so that he's ready to play now when you really need him. Even the first 2 games of the series. Again, what do we always say? If you go to somebody else's place that has home court advantage, you want to leave their place with 1 win because now you flipped the series around. You made it a 5-game series with you having home court advantage. So they flipped the series without Kevin Durant, and now they're going to get him back for the last 5 games if it goes that far. I mean, I think the Warriors are in a pretty good spot right now. I'm feeling pretty good about my Warriors futures bet. A hell of a lot better than I felt about it when I panicked yesterday at halftime and just started.
No doubt about it. So it gets back out there Wednesday night. Interesting to see what Kevin Durant's status will be moving forward. So we got Wednesday and Friday of this week's for game 3 and 4. So those are the only 2 basketball games we got. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty. That means it's time to start turning our attention to something else. And right now on Fantasy Guru's site, fantasyguru.com, the fantasy football draft kit is out, available for you to get ready to win your league in 2018. It's fantasygurusite.com, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Benny, it's time to start getting ready for for at least for me, you know what I mean, the breadwinner, the moneymaker, the fantasy football season, and going into it this season. If you haven't really got back into it yet and you're just really getting ready to get started, the Todd Gurley discussion is going to be a discussion that is going to really dominate fantasy draft season. It's a lot of people that's not optimistic about it. I'm curious to know how far do you let him fall on draft day. Would you take Todd Gurley or Derrick Henry?
You're going to think I'm crazy, but I mean, we talked about this Todd Gurley thing, and I am really, really nervous about it. So
Zero shares, Benny?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The earliest I'll take Todd Gurley is in the third round.
Really? So not even the second round RB2?
No, I would take a second RB2 that I had more faith in and then wait till the third round, and he would be my third running back. Because, again, when he plays, nobody's going to argue that Todd Gurley is going to be like the most productive back on the field when he plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big difference between, like, twisting your ankle and having an arthritic knee. Like my dad is 67 years old. He has an arthritic knee.
Yeah.
He can't get off the freaking couch some days. You know what I mean? Like he's holding on and pushing himself up and all that. And my dad's a big guy, big, strong guy. You know what I'm saying? So, and my dad is also not a professional football player. He's a retired man who hangs out at home and watches CSI reruns until the Yankee game comes out. Like that's what he does. And he can't walk around with his knee.
Yeah.
He's not taking hits by 300-pound guys, coming full speed at him right now. Listen, I don't know if Todd Gurley's even going to be ready for the start of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if Todd Gurley's going to be a guy who can play more than 10 games this year. For the 8 to 10 games that he might be able to play, he's going to dominate. He's going to be awesome. But I don't want to use an early round pick on that, knowing that I'm going to have to figure something out. If you draft Gurley in the second round, you better be going, like, after you get some wide receivers, you better be taking all of those, A, handcuff guys, and B, those, like, second-tier running backs. You need to put 4 or 5 of them on your team, meaning that from round 6, round 7 to round 10, you're basically going out there and just grabbing solid running backs, knowing that you're going to have to weather the storm of possibly half a season, if not more, without Gurley.
So, second round, first round, your pick is Christian McCaffrey. You come back at 210, and Todd Gurley sitting there at 210. McCaffrey, Gurley, nope.
I'm not doing it. There'll be some other running back there that I can take that I'll have more faith in. Like I think people are really going to get burned by Todd Gurley this year. So maybe that's my big. You got to take stands when you're doing these drafts.
I feel
that's
you.
One of the big stands that I'm willing to take this year.
I feel you. I'm looking for a buying opportunity though. Because sometimes the NFL, especially fantasy football, you have these buying opportunities. I'll be honest, I'm with you. I don't think this is the correct one to invest in, this buying opportunity right here. So I do think guys like Nick Chubb is getting to the point where I would take a guy like Nick Chubb over Todd Gurley. Derrick Henry is a tough nut for me to crack because I'm not he just had those couple of good runs.
That's my big problem with him, but that's literally how scared I am of Gurley this year.
Yep. I feel you. I don't think I would go as far as to take Mark Ingram over Gurley. I definitely would take Damian Williams. Came out last week, and they said that Damian Williams will be the team starting running back. Yep. I don't know about Mark Ingram over Gurley. I would take Damian Williams over Gurley.
Yes.
His former Georgia Bulldog friend, Nick Chubb, I would take over him.
Now,
I don't know if I would go as far as to take Sony Michel over him, but I think an interesting name is Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette can be an X factor. He has a third-round ADP, and I think you're going to see Gurley start to dip in one direction and Fournette start to slide up the board. Do you trust Leonard Fournette?
Well, listen, I mean, if both of them are on the board at the same time, I'm taking Gurley. Because to me, it's the same issue with both guys is I don't think I'm getting a full season out of either one of them.
Okay.
When I do get either one of them in there, they're going to both be studs. See, this is why I love daily fantasy, right, Corey? Because
don't worry about it.
when I know Fournette is good to go and I know he's not banged up, he's going to get 30 carries because that's what they do. I mean that's their offense. That's the way they play. That's the way they want to play. So in daily, you can definitely take that. But when you're looking at season long, like again, the guy's hurt every year. You know that there's going to be an injury here. The year that he doesn't have an injury, he's going to win somebody a fantasy football championship. But the other 4 or 5 years where he does have an injury, all those people who drafted him are going to lose because you can't lose one of your top 3 or 4 round picks.
Especially at running back, because what ends up happening is Benny, you start eating the bad games. Mm-hmm. So it's like by the time you get to the point where, okay, we're going to shut him down, it's already week 7. And it's not like you can bench him. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, the biggest problem you have with guys like that, like a Gurley and like a Fournette, they're not all of a sudden, it's very unlikely that they're all of a sudden going to just be like, oh yeah, I just ran for 150 yards last game. This game, I'm going to shut it down for the season. Like you said, what tends to happen is they run for $150. Everyone's like, oh man, yeah, he's good. He looks great. And then you put him in the next week and he gets banged up a little bit and only gets 18 carries. And then you're like, all right, well, they say he's going to play next week, so I'll play him. And then they only give him 14 carries and he doesn't have a good game. And then you're like, all right, well, now they said he's healthy because they had a bye week, so now I'm going to play him next week. And he gets 10 carries again. And then the next week he gets shut down. And like you said, now your season's shot because you just wasted 3 – you had one big week out of him and you won. And then you just wasted 3 weeks waiting for him to get back to being that high-level player. I just don't want to deal with those kind of headaches.
That's a tough thing to have to deal with on a Sunday morning. I'd rather my Sunday mornings be, here's the cab, I'll holler at you. Now, with that I have to set my line. I'm worried about Todd Gurley. I'll talk to you later. With that being said, it's funny. Years ago, this is interesting. Tommy G, who doesn't really play much season-long fantasy football. Mm-hmm. But he's like, in situations like that, like how you're describing, most people don't do it. But the best thing to do is to cut that player. This way, you don't have that struggle every week of what I should do with him. Cut him, make him somebody else's problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I would even say trade him if you can for just
trade league. Yeah.
Like a lot of people look at trades during the year and they're like, oh, why would you trade Leonard Fournette for I don't know, some backup running back who just inherited a starting position? It's like, well, because I can predict that guy's going to get 15 to 20 touches. I'm not 100% sure. Does Fournette have the higher ceiling than whoever that backup guy I picked up is? Probably, but, again, is a banged-up Gurley or a banged-up Fournette, something that you can really count on? At least I can count on this guy getting 15 to 20 touches a game and, not ruining my weeks. And sometimes that's worth it.
No doubt. So there you go right there, fantasyguru.com. Get you caught up on everything as we start to get ready for the countdown to kickoff of the 2019 NFL season. But let's get a little bit of baseball going before we get up out of here. Got the first game of the day is a 4:05 Eastern time start. The Angels and the Chicago Cubs. Little interleague action out there on the north side. The Cubs minus 168. The number is 9.
Yeah, John Lester on the mound for the Cubs in this one, right?
Lester and Bedrosian.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for DFS, we don't have to worry too much about this because the slate is the main slate, at least, is really the late games, this being the one game that's earlier in the day. I just never want to take pitchers against the Angels, right? Like, the Angels just have the lowest strikeout rate in the league. A lot of those guys towards the top of that order are right-handed bats. Guys like Fletcher, guys like Trout, even Ohtani, who's a lefty, is still good in same-handed matchups. There's just a lot of reasons why I would not be comfortable taking the Cubs here today. I think the best thing I can say about this game is there's probably going to be some runs scored. What was the total on it? 8? 9? Yeah, 9's a little bit high, so I'd probably just stay away from this one.
I think it's a faded also, so that means we have to wait all the way till 9:40 p.m. Eastern time before we have something to bet on, Benny. And then I
told you, this is like the worst day for sports that I can remember in a long time.
See if there's any European basketball going on. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, Walker Buehler, Robbie Ray, 8.5 is the total. The Dodgers are minus 154 favorite.
So I'm gonna give you guys a freebie out here right now. Over at the Elite Betting site, EliteSportsBetting.com. Most of our MLB experts, who all do their stuff independently, they all have their own algorithms and research. Every one of them's on the Dodgers right now. And I've already seen the line move on it because they were getting down on the Dodgers at like minus 135, minus 140, and I think it's almost up to minus 150 right now. So
minus 154 is what I'm looking at, Benny.
Yeah, so that's a lot of steam going in that direction. I got down on it about 145 when I first saw it. I think the way, for those of you who don't know, MLB model, Rob, our esteemed CEO over here at, the Elite Fantasy family and, group of websites and all, he puts out what he thinks is the true line, and that's how he bets. Like, he makes his own lines, and then he looks at the lines offered. He looks at the line that he has, what he thinks it should be, and then depending on, how much space is between what he thinks it should be and how off he thinks Vegas is, that kind of dictates his bet size. he had the true line in this as like a 155, 160. So moving up to 154, that's kind of where it should be right now. So at 154, I think you're getting you're getting the number you should be getting. If you can find it below 150, at any of the sites that you're looking at, below minus 150, there's probably a lot of value in betting the Dodgers today.
Yeah, the one you got at 148 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So that's a good look right there if you want to get down with that one. I just said DraftKings Sportsbook, and boom, I pop up, I get an email from DraftKings. It's like they knew I was talking about.
Technology is amazing nowadays. They heard you as soon as you said it. They were like, "Oh, that blasted out to him." Yeah,
out to him. You know what I'm saying? Bye. So we like the Dodgers tonight. Houston and Seattle. This all the way at 10-10 tonight. Martin and LeBlanc. Seattle is this opened at minus 130 for the Astros.
Right.
Minus 220. The total is 9.5.
It went from minus 130 to minus 220. Did they change the pitchers?
Must have been something.
That's a big move without a pitching.
That's humongous.
Now, when I looked at this earlier this morning, or maybe last night it was, the guy they had listed was Cody Martin, I think, was the listed pitcher for the Astros.
Yeah, that's what's down there. Cody Martin versus Wade LeBlanc.
Yeah, Martin is like a 3 or 4 inning kind of guy. Like he's not a true like opener where he's just going to pitch an inning and then be out. But he's also not like a starter that goes deep. I think he had like 4 starts on the year. It was like 3 innings, 4 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. So at most, this guy's going 5 innings, and that's like a best case scenario. I really think there's going to be runs in this game on both sides, right? Like I'm not a huge LeBlanc fan, and I do think that the Astros, even without, again, the Astros are playing without Correa, they're playing without Altuve, they're playing without Springer. I mean, that's 3 of the top 4 guys in your order most nights. So the offense isn't that good, but I still think that this offense is good enough. And I think that if you're throwing a whole bunch of kind of journeymen, which is what it looks like the Astros are going to do today, that the over is probably the bet here, right?
9.5 is a big number, but the Astros themselves.
It is a big number.
The Astros themselves can't get that done. That ballpark in Seattle. It's interesting. This is offshore numbers I'm looking at right now. 97% of the tickets are on Houston. 19% of the money is on Houston.
97% of the tickets, but only 19% of the money. So that means some big syndicate or some big bettor is making a very big bet on the other side of this game and taking the Mariners.
Yeah, that's what it is right there. This game is not even listed right now on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Well, I think, again, that's a huge move. You said, think about what you just said, 90% of the bets, 97% of the bets, but only 19% of the money. That means 3% of the bets are on the Mariners and 81% of the money that was bet is on the Mariners.
And I find that's very weird. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what that is that's 1 or 2 big betting syndicates coming in and just banging the hell out of that side of the game.
No doubt. And it's interesting. I also see that FanDuel has also taken that down now too. So that's going to be a thing to watch today as you get ready for that one. That looks like a stay away from me because it's like some funny business going on with that game.
Yeah, I agree.
Philadelphia and San Diego. 7.5 is the total on this one. Aaron Nola and the one and only Eric Lauer on the mound for the Padres. Philadelphia coming in this one at minus 132.
Yeah, I like the Phillies, and I do kind of like the under in this one. Nola and Lauer are both solid pitchers. I don't know if I would bet the under, though. But I definitely like Nola in this one. Nola would be my DFS pitcher for the evening too. The Astros, the Padres are one of the higher strikeout teams against right-handed pitching. They don't have a very good WRC plus. I think they're in the bottom 10 if I'm not mistaken. So I do like Nola a lot here. I don't think there's going to be a lot of runs in this game. I don't want to pick on Lauer either. Like he's not great, but he doesn't suck as much as he has in the past. I should probably say that. And he's a young kid, so you would expect his numbers to, he has better numbers this year, and you would expect his numbers to improve because young kids taking a step forward is what they should do. I can trust a young kid taking a step forward and having better numbers more than I could trust a 35-year-old guy who's having a hot start to a season.
Well, Aaron Nola strikeout prop 6.5.
I like that. The Padres, like I said, the Padres do strike out a decent amount. So that's a pretty good one right there. Again, what you really got to worry about is how deep Nola can go into that game.
You're getting that Nola over 6.5. You're getting it at minus 152.
Yeah, I mean, minus 152 means they pretty much expect it to happen too. That's not really a good number. When I'm taking K props, I try to keep it the minus 130 or even money to like minus 130 is probably about as far as I'd go, unless I think something's an absolute lock, because otherwise there's just no value in it.
Yeah, you would have to parlay that with something right there in order to be able to get a couple dollars out of this one right there. Maybe you use your NHL knowledge or something like that. I don't know. Whatever you like, whatever you're into. But that's the strikeout prop on that number right there. So there you go right there. Benny, big piece of chicken. I got to give it to my boy. He killed the show this weekend. So he gets the big piece of chicken. Jaden Parson, what do you got, Benny?
Yeah, I'm going to give mine to Steve. I'm going to give mine to Steve Kerr because he made the adjustments last night that really made the difference in that game on the defensive end. He made the adjustments. Nick Nurse did not make the adjustments to kind of counter it. And you know what? The Warriors went in there. And I'm not even going to say it. The Warriors went in there and stole one. Yeah. Because it was a game that they didn't look like they should have won in the first half. They came out and had a huge third quarter, which was the only quarter of that game that they won. They had a whole bunch of guys banged up and playing at less than 100%, and a couple other of their stars who got banged up and didn't finish that game. But for them, they did exactly what they needed to do. They walked out of Golden State. They walked out of Toronto, going back to Golden State, flipping the home court advantage, making it a 5-game series with them having 3 games at home. So they did the right thing there. Big piece of chicken to Kerr for making those adjustments.
Steve Kerr gets a BPOC. Corey and Benny Rocket, what you thanks for watching what's on the opening line. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you hit us up in the chat. And then we'll get things going for you. For Benny, I am Corey Parson, Fantasy Executive. We are out.